Probably they shouldn't want to be.
You?
I think it sounds better than it is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not as much fun being me as you'd think. I don't know.
You don't think so?
No. There's definitely, it could be worse for sure, but I'm not sure I want to be me.
Okay.
But if, I think advice, if you want to make progress in things, I think the best analytical framework for understanding the future is physics. I'd recommend studying the thinking process around physics, like not the equations. The equations certainly they're helpful, but the way of thinking in physics is it's the best framework for understanding things that are counterintuitive, and always taking the position that you are to some degree wrong, and your goal is to be less wrong over time. And one of the biggest mistakes people generally make, and I'm guilty of it too, is wishful thinking. You want something to be true, even if it isn't true. And so you ignore the things that, you ignore the real truth because of what you want to be true. This is a very difficult trap to avoid. And like I said, it's certainly one that I find myself in having problems with. But if you just take that approach of you're always to some degree wrong, and your goal is to be less wrong, and solicit critical feedback, particularly from friends. Like particularly friends, if somebody loves you, they want the best for you. They don't want to tell you the bad things. So you have to ask them, and say, really, I really do want to know. and then they'll tell you.
The way I do branding, I sell so infrequently that I think some of you that are watching me the hardest core need to hear this, which is it's okay to sell, especially if you believe in something. Like if you believe in what you're selling, and that's what I'm spending a lot of time on now, trying to spend more time on really getting to a place where I really believe in stuff. Instead I was just passive, not creating. So I wasn't selling because I didn't believe, and just letting everything come to me. But as I create these, events, Vayner Experience, a lot of events, very big on events. Events are so valuable. Just watching the 4Ds crew, its value and like how it's impacting their business for $10,000 right there. You see, I know you're getting emails. The wine club, like $150 worth of wine for 55 bucks. Like I've just locked in November's. It's gonna make all your Thanksgivings ridiculous. The conference, $500 2-hour session in my stomping grounds. Good deal compared to like other conferences that I speak at, but you're getting the wine for free, or you're getting the talk for free and you're getting the wine. So like, I'm very fascinated because I'm putting more pressure on myself to create things that I really believe in, which then allows me to sell more. And I just think for a lot of you, selling, the ask, the right hook is very difficult. You're passive, you like the idea of like feeling good about like giving out content, this and that. When you believe in something, you can sell it, and you should put more pressure on yourself to create things that you believe in.
If you're successful in life, enormous wealth can go with that success. If you have enormous wealth, then enormous responsibility goes with it too. And it's that responsibility to use your entrepreneurial skills to get out into the world to solve some of the problems of the world. And also to use your financial strength to get out in the world and solve some of the problems of the world.
Is it a new trend though? Well, not a new trend, but is it a trend? We're seeing more of it now.
I think it is a trend. I think it's a positive trend, and I think what capitalism is something which seems to be the only system that works. Capitalism is wonderful in that you have young people, they come up with an idea to make a difference in other people's lives, and they go with their idea, and if they're successful, their idea grows and they make some money. But they make, the fault of capitalism, they sometimes make the kind of money that it is completely unnecessary for them to make. And in order not to stifle capitalism by imposing sort of draconian taxes on those people, it's up to those people then to use that money to give it back to society in one form or another.
We received a message on Facebook from one of our viewers to ask you, and this is from Thomas Huygen, and he says, being on the one extreme of global inequality, what do you make of the criticism that it's unjust for the 85 wealthiest people on the planet, and I suppose you are towards that side, to have as much wealth as the poorest 3.5 billion people?
I just came from a lunch with Bill Gates, who is perhaps the wealthiest man in the world, and 60 other business leaders who are very successful, who have all agreed to give the majority of their wealth away, either whilst they're alive or when they die.
I think mindset is everything, and so you've got to really decide, are you going to be positive about things or negative about things? Am I thrilled that I have the ability to do things about it to make what I'm worried about better, or am I crippled by there's like these 7 things I need to fix tomorrow? I always choose positivity. I look at other people around me. It's not just about me that are winning. They choose positivity. I look at the people around me that are not winning, that are not progressing, that are not advancing. They're choosing negativity. It's stunningly binary. It's stunningly black and white. It's stunningly A or B. This is really up to you. And really, to be very honest, to be very frank, I think the biggest impact I'm having as I read all the emails, because I read a lot of them last night as well, is shifting that mindset and getting people into that and making them understand that they're in charge of that, and hacking and trying to pour out the negativity, dump a negativity, add a positivity, dump a negativity, add a positivity, dump a negativity, add a positivity. I'm a positivity to your world. That's what I'm pushing. That's my agenda, and that's why I think you're feeling the effects. And I think you need to find more of that in your partner, in your loved one, in your business partner, in your audience. So many people get 49 comments, 48 are phenomenal. One's like, you're a piece of shit, and they spend 80% of their time on that one comment.
My life is fueled by my being, and the being fuels the doing. So I come from a centered place. I come from a focused place. I come from compassion. It's just my nature. I come from a willingness to understand and to be understood.
Right.
And I come from wanting to connect. I mean, the secret of that show for 25 years is that people could see themselves in me. All over the world, they could see themselves in me. And even as I became more and more financially successful, which was a big surprise to me, I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting.
You mean you got more than that 30,000?
I got more than 30,000 by the time I was 30. But what I realized is through the whole process, because I'm grounded in my own self, that although I could have more shoes, my feet stayed on the ground, although I was wearing better shoes. These are kind of cute today too. So I could keep my feet on the ground even though I could get more shoes. And I could understand that it really was because I was grounded. I've done was doing and continue to this day to do the consciousness work. I work at staying awake.
That you're gonna be okay. The fact that you realize that that negative moment has positive impact, the question is, why did it happen? And that's why you have to be honest with yourself. I don't know, but that's, I'm pumped that you can have you're more positive than half the people here, and it sounds like you're having a terrible day.
Super rage. That's why I wanted to ask you, how do you keep the positivity, the calmness, when everything is hitting the fan?
Because basically when things happen, I go the other way. So tonight, I just was reminding myself every time you came and the next person came, I was just reminding literally in my own head, saying, you don't mean shit. I said it to one of you. They said, how do you stay humble when you're so successful? I'm like, because I know if I die tomorrow, I'll have a good day on social media. Like most comments ever on my latest post on Instagram, everybody's gonna be like, oh, that was the last one, weird. And I know that all of you will be on with your life a week later. You have to balance your ego with humility. In the same way, when I'm having my worst day, I realize I'm the best. I'm gonna be the best that ever does this. And so the way I handle things is when something's going one way, I use all my emotional strength to push the other way. What, are you gonna cry for the rest of your life because the conference got f***ed up? To me, it's just like, look what the f***'s going on. Guys, if you're in this room right now, let me just remind you that there are 7.7 billion people. Literally right now, as we stand here, there are women being shipped to be strippers in parts of our world. Right now, as we stand here, there are women who are basically caged, mentally usually, and are being shipped to dance on a pole in Manhattan and in London. Like, do you understand there's genocide going on right now. Like, what do you think's going on? Like, we lack perspective. Your conference got f***ed up, boo-hoo. I lost a client, boo-hoo. There's people f***ing dying out there. So when Americans or Europeans talk to me about race or gender, I'm sad, it's their real life, but I remind them because it's a positive thing, cool, but let me tell you about the person that's ranked 7 billion in the world. They f***ing have it bad. And so I struggle. Listen, I'm weird. I think about things like animals, I don't know. If you're the best elephant, we are still better than you. We got listen, I got hot on this about a year ago, the 400 trillion to 1. It's impossible to be a human being. You won. I don't know how to get upset after that. I keep shit in perspective, right? You're gonna learn from this. You f***ed up. I promise you it's failing because of you. And when you start owning your shit and not blaming other people, and I think this is the kick I've been on lately on Instagram, right? Blame yourself. You know why I'm always happy? I blame myself. When you blame yourself for real, you're gonna always be happy.
I've learned to appreciate living in the moment, and I ask that you do too. I'm asking this graduating class, those of you here, I've asked all of my viewers in America and across the world to do this one thing. Keep a grateful journal. Every night, list 5 things that happened this day, in days to come, that you are grateful for. What it will begin to do is to change your perspective of your day and your life. I believe that if you can learn to focus on what you have, you will always see that the universe is abundant and you will have more. If you concentrate and focus in your life on what you don't have, you will never have enough. Be grateful. Keep a journal.
Enough. Living by somebody else's rules is a humongous mistake. I've just literally sat down with 5 people under the age of 27 and it's so refreshing. It is so refreshing. If you have not jumped on the bandwagon of doing exactly what the you want to do, which is skiing for the next 3 years or working at a job that's not what your parents want or what society wants, this video is just called Enough. Enough. Make this little 1-2 minute video, depends on when I finish, the piece of content that gets you to stand up and take life by its throat. Do something. Stop being scared. Stop letting the way you were raised, the fear as an offense, take that away. Let me be the person. I'll take the blame. I loved that some of my employees are like, my parents don't love what you're saying. Good. Parents, because if you are playing defense and if you are living a life where your kids' lives are the way you're being fulfilled, you're a loser, parents. And so enough parents imposing their way. You want your kids to be happy on your terms. Enough the kid that's sitting right now at a desk and saw this in a feed and you hate your job. Enough. Stand up, get the out of here and do you. Live your life. You got one life.
When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Live your life from a point of view of truth, and you will live your life from truth, and you will survive everything. Everything. I believe even death. You will survive everything if you
talk to you guys about why Toys R Us filing Chapter 11 matters. Toys R Us did 2 things over the last couple decades that make no sense. One, very early in the 2000s, they outsourced themselves to Amazon. They didn't believe in the internet. 17 years ago, so they let Amazon do their fulfillment, which started people getting used to buying toys on the internet through an Amazon world. But most importantly, they just didn't innovate. You know, and when you don't innovate, you die. Like, you could have made Toys R Us 3 years ago could have created the national Lego championships, and everybody would be, there was a million, they could have made slime centers. They could be killing it right now with their locations, but no, they choose to just like sell toys out of it, and none of you want to go there. First of all, you're going to go to Walmart and pick it up for less money anyway, while you pick up your groceries and anything else. And if you even want to leave your home, and you don't, and so you'll go to Amazon and do it that way, or buy it from somebody's YouTube channel link, or Instagram account. It's the best example right now of like how in trouble everybody is if they rest on their laurels. If Toys R Us, the dominant niche retail leader of a humongous multi-billion-dollar category, is finished, what do you think is going to happen over the next 6 years?
I have paid attention to my life because I understand that my life, just like your life, is always speaking to you, where you are, in the language, with the people, with the circumstances and experiences that you can understand and interpret if you are willing to see that always life, God, is speaking to you. Now, it took me a while to actually really get this and to understand it, but once I did, I started paying attention to everything. And one of the reasons why I can now accept the fact that I can offer my gatherings of information and wisdom and call myself a spiritual teacher is that every single person who ever came on my show, and I hear there's like 37,000 guests I've talked to, a lot of them came from dysfunction, and a lot of them wouldn't appear to be teachers, but every one of them had something to say that was meaningful and valuable and that I could use to grow myself into the best of myself, which is what all of our jobs are. Your number one job is to become more of yourself.
Have to reverse engineer who you're trying to get to. If you're a salesperson out there right now, if you're trying to get to me, and so many of you are, I get 50, 70 bulk emails, bulk direct messages, bulk Twitter direct messages, Instagram, business cards, all sorts of weird stuff sent in the mail. I'm busy.
Right.
I'm busy, and I'm just not interested in you selling to me, not because I don't like you, because I respect the game, it's because I'm just busy. Mm-hmm. It's nothing personal. So I think the first thing you have to do is reverse engineer the person. Because I'm not in the market to buy anything, I'm gonna be tougher. But if I need certain software, if I need something, that's a good time to attack.
Right.
So I think the number one rule of salespeople is to listen. Know your audience. Know what they did. If you see an M&A just happen, if you see layoffs just happening, if you see if I see Burger King doing something, I'm thinking, what does McDonald's think of this? Right. I think a lot of you are doing things that are directly in front of you. Numbers that they put in front of you, you're trying to achieve that because you have a beach house you want to buy or go on that vacation. Sales is a funny game if you work in a big company. They manipulate numbers to create your actions. I believe that the best salespeople are doing things in a different way. I think you need to care about the customer for real, reverse engineer them, and give them what they need.
Rome wasn't built in a day. We all know that. Everyone hears that. But Rome also didn't fall apart overnight either. It took hundreds of years for Rome to reach its peak, but it also took time, hundreds of years, for Rome to decay and fall apart. And that is representative of life, because you don't achieve worthwhile goals quickly or easily. They take time. They take struggle. They take relentless pursuit day in and day out. That's what it takes. But also, things don't usually fall apart quickly either. At least at first, it's a slow process. A little slip here, a little setback over there, a little wearing down of discipline and will over time. That's the thing. Success and failure are generally slow processes. Either slowly building things up or gradually tearing them down. And that's why I say you've got to pay attention. You have to watch. You have to watch every single second. Because those seconds, they turn into minutes. And minutes turn into hours, and hours turn into days, and days turn into years. And so, that second that just went by, that counted. And so did that second. And so did that one. And in those precious seconds, you were either building or you were decaying. You were either gaining ground or you were losing ground in that second. And in every second. Every second counts. So, make every second count.
Too many of you in here have ego around your time when it's the only thing you got. So the reason I always know is because I work. Because I work. I try things, I test, I DM you back, I tweet, I work. So when you're in shit, you taste it. And when you've done it for 20 years, you see patterns. Facebook's still underpriced. You just can't target 22 to 25-year-old African-American fans of football because other people are doing that too now. It's just like Google. Early on, you could just target soccer. One word, 5 cents a click. I did it. Wine. But then I had to put, at the end of the game, now, I got to put 2013, Heller Sellers, Zinfandel, like long tail. Real estate. If you're right about London, look, this is my favorite. Do you understand that somebody once bought this building for $1? Somebody bought the land we're on for $1 once. That happened. It was a long time ago. How do you know? You're a practitioner. The reason I do is how I learn. You got to put out. All of you are like, well, I can't do podcasting and Facebook and Twitter. Oh, but I can vlog, but I can't. Why? If you want it so bad. My thing is why? If you want it so bad, why can't, if you want to have a media company around Caribbean food culture, why can't you? You know what I want to see? I want to see all your minutes. I want to see all your minutes. I want to give you D-Rock for the day. I want to watch you from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep. Let me promise you something. You're going to get exposed. So that's why Daily V happened. Because you guys, like a lot of you didn't know me before Daily V. How many people knew me before Daily V? Well, not bad, right? You got to really know me post Daily V. You heard hard work and hustle before, you were confused. And I've been doing that shit every day for 20 years.
I don't think you determine what your purpose is. I think you discover what your purpose is. There's a difference. Determining indicates deciding. And I don't think you decide. I think if you go about it the right way, you discover it. Like there's some people that should be painting all day. They're great artists. I think Michelangelo was obviously a great artist, a great sculptor. I mean, that was his purpose in his life. Well, I believe my purpose is doing what I'm doing. Your purpose is why you get out of bed in the morning. Do you know why you get up? Well, most people say, well, it's to go to work. Well, that'd be a good reason to stay in bed. You know, you say, well, everybody's doing it. That'd be another reason to stay in bed. If you're ever doing what everybody's doing, you're probably going in the wrong direction. Your purpose is your reason for living. What you want to do is sit down and maybe take a pen and a pad and then ask yourself, what do I really love doing? Now, you may have to spend a while at this. You might get up an hour early every morning and go sit under a tree somewhere if you're in a nice climate, or pick a favorite chair, someplace where you're not going to be disturbed, and totally relax and say, if I could spend my life doing something, what do I really love doing? Now, since you don't ask yourself that question every day, it might take a while for this answer to come to the surface. But it comes to your consciousness. And it may take a while. You may have to do this every morning for 3 months. But it would be well invested, the time.
I think every year you're trying to reinvent yourself and you stay in touch with what other people are doing, thinking, feeling. I have always felt that my instinct and ability to connect with the audience was what carried us. Every day after the show, now I do something called After the Show, which airs on Oxygen. I have spent for the past 16 years a half an hour just talking to people. So my audience comes from a cross-section around the country, so I stay connected to what real people are thinking and doing and want and so forth.
The reason people don't put themselves in a position to fail, the reason people aren't patient, is they value other people's opinions too much, which then dictates their behavior, which then gets into all of this. Is if you, don't hold on to it with the thought of in case it fails, because you just need to realize it's your scarlet letter. Literally the reason people are scared, always, is the outside force. Having a failing business and everyone's like, oh, see, you could never do, or whatever the cliche shit is, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't matter. You know why? So that's one piece.
Yeah. But they told me I couldn't do this. It'll never happen.
And even if it didn't succeed, what? They're such better people? Like what, I'm such a better person than other people because I can build a business?
I really believe that what life is truly about is making other people happier. And I know that sounds very obvious, but this does apply to you as an entrepreneur or as a leader, or as a high performer, or as someone who wants to play at world class. I mean, I really believe in this concept of servant leadership. And as I've studied the great entrepreneurs and the great business builders and the great humanitarians, here's what I've realized. Inside, sometimes it was very private. On this second point of the purpose of life, they had this acute obsession with delivering value and helping as many people as possible. And I really do believe that's the secondary purpose of life. It's about helping being radically helpful to as many people as possible. And here's the thing. If you've done the interior work, so you are so full, there's no holes within you, okay, then you're not going to be a taker from the world, you're going to be a giver. And I'm going to repeat that again. If you look at the greatest among us, they were not takers, they were givers. And here's why I think they were givers. They didn't have any needs from within. They had so fallen in love with their greatness and their peace and their joy and their potential that they didn't need to take from the world. They didn't need to take from other people. They really were, their well of wisdom and compassion and self-worth was so full that they walked out into their workplace, they walked out into their industries, they walked out into their communities, and they were giving. And this applies to you as a business builder because the more value you give, the more money you'll make, the more your brand will fly, the more customers will beat a path to your doorstep. And for you as a humanitarian, and you might not think of yourself as a humanitarian, but a humanitarian is simply someone that cares about humanity. And as a humanitarian, the more you give, the more you will open up the doorways to receive from the rest of the world.
Try so hard in our lives to fit in. We try to fit into certain groups, certain frats, certain sororities, among certain friends. Yet the people we idolize are the ones that stand out. But when you're prepared, there is no fear. There is no fear of failure, okay? Because even if you've walked out of something and you feel like you failed at it, your preparation is so strong that you're gonna take that failure and turn it into the outcome you desire. And most people stop at failure, okay? We've all failed at things. I'm gonna continue to fail at stuff, right? It's the most powerful tool you can use, but it all depends on how you use it. We talk about it in Relentless, okay? A scalpel, okay? In the hands of an individual, it can do unbelievable damage. In the hands of a professional, of a doctor, it saves lives. So it's the same thing with failure. It's how you use it. It's that drive inside of you, okay? It's what we talk about, the dark side. The dark side is filled with failure, but it's the fuel that burns you like something that's never burned inside you before.
My only focus was to do my one play, and I knew if I could get that to work, everything else would come to pass. There's so many people who go in so many directions. This week they're doing this, and next week they're doing that, and next week they're doing this, and next week they're going to be in real estate, and the next week they're going to open a salon. And those kind of people are all over the place, and I usually try to get them to focus. Focus on one thing, one area. Put all of your energy into watering one area. If you spread the water across many, many seeds, you don't have as much water for one seed. So focus on one thing. Make it your priority and stick with it no matter what. No matter how many people told me no, no matter how many people lied to me, no matter how many times I put the show up and nobody came. I remember when I did my very first show, I worked my butt off and saved $12,000 tax returns from H&R Block money. I saved it, worked hard, saved it myself, rented the 14th Street Playhouse, put that show up, thought that 1,200 people would come over a weekend, and 30 showed up, and I knew every one of them. But I didn't stop. That didn't deter me. That was in 1992. 93, same thing happened. 94, 95, 96, 97, up until 1998. Same devastation, nobody showing up in the audience. I was doing one show a year, working with different promoters, trying to get the show up, and nobody showed up. But I didn't stop. And what I say to you now, looking at me now, here, I am a human being. There's no difference between my humanness and your humanness. The only thing is, if you're trying to get there, you cannot stop believing in any way. No matter what anybody says, no matter what anybody tells you, you have to know it beyond knowing it. And it is a feeling. When something is for you, this is how I knew it was for me. When something is for you, there's a feeling that is deep down inside of you that will not allow you to let it go. It will keep you going when you can't even keep yourself going. That's why the mantra here at the Tyler Perry Studios is a place where even dreams believe. Because there comes a time in your life where you've worked and you've stressed and you tried to get there and you couldn't on your own, but you have a dream. And that dream has to take on the belief for you because you can't do it by yourself. So what I would tell you is this: don't stop. Narrow your focus to one idea, and make it work. That will give birth to all the others.
The minimum amount of money you want to make for your life, like what would be the minimum amount of money that you make every year that allowed you to live and do that content media site? What do you think?
Maybe 40,000, 50,000 pounds, maybe.
Great. So you're like, what is amazing about that, if that's where you're at, well then at this young of an age, and that's where you're at, and the fact that you're even here, and it's just unbelievable amounts of content in written, audio, and visual form on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and podcast. And I will tell you, I would be flabbergasted in 3, 4, 5, 6 years, unless you suck, which you may. But if you don't suck, and you have that little of a financial need, right, which is remarkable, which is the biggest thing. Somebody here, I don't know if they're here, said, you made me realize I didn't need Rolexes and things of that nature, right? Like, the biggest reason so many of you will fail is your number for success is far greater than his. You think you need $1 million, which will then mean that you're gonna do a lot of things when you don't get $1 million very quickly that won't ever get you $1 million. So if you think what I just said is cool, which is bleed for 6 years in a row, you'll probably get sponsorship or sales of product to 40,000 a year. To me, that's what I did. I knew what I wanted. I was willing to give up my 20s for it. Gave them up. Gave them up. You know, somebody said it's difficult not to document right now. I'm like, but I didn't, right? They're like, what? Should I build my business or should I document? I'm like, both. He's like, well, I got to pick one. I'm like, build your business. Like, so if your ambitions are that humble, which they are, that's incredible. That excites me. Because by the way, here's the funny part. That's who I was too. I just needed 100,000 a year. Just, that seemed rich to me, right? Like, I was like, cool, I'll be okay. Like I'll have a house, like, you know, it's not, you know, I just needed to play, I needed the game. And too many of you in here want the stuff, not the game. When you fall in love with the game, everything's different because you've already won. That's real. It sounds cliche, but it's real.